Welcome to the Nick's Right podcast, where Nick is always right. Gen Xer, old millennial. I'm looking at the screen instead of the camera. It's really. Anyway, we're here. We've got a special episode for you guys. JD Wilcox, and he's got a documentary coming out that I think a lot of people are going to want to see because it's about the actual, or not the actual, but an additional shooter for whenever the assassination attempt happened on President Trump. July, no, that's whenever it comes out. But I'm talking about whenever it actually happened. Is July 13th that actually the day that happened?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it's you put it on the anniversary of it.
Correct.
Got it. So JD, thank you for coming. Thanks for being on the show.
To meet you guys.
I'm excited to know more about this. I want to know what you guys know because I know that y'all are the only ones that probably do. To know about all of the stuff that you've researched and investigated.
Us and the FBI, we're the only ones. Me and the FBI are the only ones that know what I know about the assassination of Butler.
Okay, so we'll go straight into it when it comes to the actual information because we are just seething to know this information because I think we've all speculated or had the conspiracy theory of like obviously we've seen some footage of other people putting videos out there of like there's no way this came from this one person. And so you're saying there's an additional shooter.
So let me, if it's okay, I'll just walk you through what the official government position is on the attempted assassination of former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Oh, absolutely.
July 13th, 2024.
Get the popcorn. I want to hear this, man.
Let's start the music.
This is serious.
Yeah. So the Congress authorized the task force to look into it, and back in December last year, they released their final report, and it says that a lone gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks, fired 8 shots from the roof of a building on the AGR complex. One of them hit President Trump. Some of them hit other people in the crowd, and he's the only shooter, and he had, as far as they can tell, he had no help.
That's fine. But it's very informal.
He had no help. He had no assistance. There's no evidence that anyone helped him or assisted him. And as of a couple weeks ago, FBI Director Kash Patel said the case is closed.
Okay, and that's according to who?
That's
the group
according,
that you mentioned?
That's according to the Congressional Task Force on the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Congressional Task Force. Now, I know nothing about this, so forgive me for my ignorance, but when you say Congressional Task Force, I think of a group of people assigned by Congress?
Yes.
To go out and, I guess, investigate this incident.
Yep. There were a bunch of congressmen.
Which kind of threatens my sense of trust that it's congressional. I mean, does that play into this at all?
And you have to keep in mind that when they formed this task force, Joe Biden was still the president. The Democrats were still in charge of Congress back then. Mm-hmm. So it's half Democrats, half Republicans, and some of the task force went to Butler, not all of them. Some of them went to Butler and did, I guess you'd call it a walkthrough. They didn't gather any evidence. They just took some pictures.
Oh, look, a bullet shell.
And they got their picture on the news, and then they came back and held a couple hearings, and then they hired a bunch of lawyers who went out and interviewed state, federal, and local law enforcement officers, and then compiled a report, and they published that report on December 5th last year.
So it's possible that something like that could be biased because it's a Democrat Congress hiring Democrat lawyers, doing their Democrat.
Don't try to roll me into your conspiracy theories.
Well,
Like this.
I apologize for first of all, because it's definitely one of those.
Let me just say that my documentary deals with the facts only. I do not engage in any speculation in the documentary. But on your podcast, we can talk about whatever conspiracy theories you want. So if you want to tell me about your conspiracies about Congress, I'm all in on that. I don't like Congress any party.
Well, the
Even
reason
the
why
movie
I
itself,
don't want to see you
we
say
just
conspiracy
used
theory.
the facts.
Yeah.
If we say conspiracy theory, it gets flagged on TikTok. So,
All right,
it's already how many times we said conspiracy theory that we have to like blurt it out.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Let's choose a code word.
No, my mind is spinning right now. What can we say?
CT.
I thought about CT.
The Hoochie Mama.
The Hoochie Mama. I love it.
Hiroshima.
So the Hoochie Mama is that.
There's many Hoochie Mamas in this situation.
Yeah.
There's many Hoochie Mamas.
Sarah like bust a slap. I don't know.
It's a Seinfeld reference. Hoochie Mama is what they yell out when they don't want to say something else. They yell out Hoochie.
Okay, Hoochie Mama. I like this.
I like
I
it.
like this a lot. Well, actually, that might get flagged on TikTok too, just because it's. I know because it's Hoochie Mama. They're gonna say like, oh, that's
Let's just
derogatory.
sit here in complete silence for an hour.
It's pretty much like if you made a video of you speaking your opinion, that all it's gonna do if you had to blurt out the stuff that TikTok would flag, it'd just be like beep 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 beep
Yeah.
beep.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like Morse code. Oh,
Okay, so back to what you were saying. The congressional.
It's based on facts. It's all based on facts. Is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
based
Like
on facts.
all the stuff that you found is
Everything
based on
that
facts.
I did is based on facts. The
Absolutely.
Congressional Task Force report is a sham. It's really just a whitewash of what happened there that day to give the appearance that the investigation is over and we should close it and move on. Because at the end of the day, at least back then, nobody in the government wanted to look critically at the story that a 20-year-old untrained college student who still lives with his parents somehow managed to outsmart the Secret Service, the state and local police, and fire 8 shots at a former president before anybody could stop him. It's an outrageous story on its face, and the more I dug into it, the more I realized it's not true. And I have actual empirical forensic evidence that proves that he had help. And there probably was at least one additional gunman in addition to the dead body on the roof, which may or may not be Thomas M. Crooks.
May or may not be.
I didn't know that. So
Thomas
it
M.
could or
Crooks.
could not. So they basically just had a front fall man.
I slam a Hoochie Mama.
Again, I don't engage in speculation about who that person is. I just, after I realized that the government wasn't going to get to the bottom of what happened there, I decided that it was my job to go out there and do an actual real investigation and see what I could find out. And my crew and I went there and we interviewed people and we gathered evidence on the ground, but we also did sort of a new technique in crime scene investigation called photogrammetry, which means we take high-resolution photos and LiDAR measurements, and we combine that all together in a computer and create a very hyper-accurate 3D model that we can manipulate and look at from different angles and trace bullet trajectories and figure out where snipers can be to get a shot at Trump and where they can't be. So in doing, and then once we did that, I handed that over to an expert, a known expert in crime scene reconstruction, and they analyzed it. And because of that, we have forensic evidence there was at least one additional shooter, because there's one of the 8 shots that were fired, not by law enforcement that day, could not have come from where that dead body is laying on that roof.
Okay, so I have lots of questions.
There's a lot to unpack as they
Hang
say.
on, follow-up question, because I think I've seen some of this stuff just floating around the internet, and of course all those videos get taken down if they're not verified or provable. So did the additional shooter come from a water tower?
That's an excellent question.
Okay.
One of the first things that
Really?
Stacey Dash.
Dude, turn your phone off.
It is off. I thought it was off.
Well, obviously it's not. It's getting phone calls.
Sorry, JD.
if that's actually Stacey Dash, please tell her that I was a huge fan of that show that she was on that was produced by Howard Stern.
Sure. Yeah.
At the Beach Show or whatever it was called.
You can probably answer and say, hey, we're on a podcast. Say hi to Jade.
That ripoff of Baywatch. I thought she was, and she was great in Clueless too. So I'm a big fan.
She's a part of our team.
I'll let her know you said that.
Yeah.
Let
I
her
would have
know-
answered.
Let
that.
her know you spoke to a fan of hers today.
I will. Okay. Yeah, she's quite a firecracker.
The
man.
water
It's fun.
tower.
Water
So
tower.
because I have this super accurate 3D model and it is much more accurate than Google Maps, and it's much more accurate than any other reconstruction that anybody else online has done outside of the FBI. And the FBI hasn't shared theirs. Because I have this hyper-accurate 3D model, I can tell you for a fact you cannot put a sniper in the water tower and hit Trump.
Oh, so that theory that was out
The trajectory just doesn't work.
As you'll see when you see the movie,
Yeah.
it's impossible to locate a sniper tower, a sniper position in the water tower and shoot at Trump. You can't see him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Got it. So not just how the bullet grazed him, but you can't see Trump at all from that position.
That particular, only one bullet hit Trump. It was the very first shot fired. It did not come from the water tower.
Okay.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Are we certain it came from what may or may not have been crooks?
So it could have come from crooks, but it could have come from somewhere else.
Do we have a general idea based on the trajectory where it would have come from? If not, we do.
Yes, so I can't, because we only have very limited bullet hole forensic evidence. The FBI has tons. They didn't share any with us. Because we have very limited bullet hole forensics, we can't do an exact trajectory. If I could, I know exactly where those bullets came from. What we could do is line of sight analysis. So I know where you can see Trump from and where you can't. And there's a bunch of places that you can see Trump from and still make that shot that are not where that dead body is lying on that roof. So that's one place where the dead body is. You could take that shot and hit Trump, but there's a whole bunch of other places that you can make that same shot that are not where that dead body is.
Would it be in the same vicinity? Is that where that dead body was?
Some are in the same vicinity, some are not.
So what you're probably suggesting here is with the evidence that you have, it's not just that one person was there. It was probably a team of people.
There's strong evidence of a conspiracy.
Yeah.
More than one
You
person.
mean a hoochie?
A hoochie, sorry. I said this so many times in the movie. It's gonna be tough to break this.
It's gonna be tough to break it. Yeah.
There is strong evidence of a hoochie. And even more than that, the FBI knows what I know.
Okay.
They've been covering that up for almost a year.
See, that's what I was going to say next. I find it hard to believe that a filmmaker and a film crew like yourself would have access to this technology, this, would you call it LiDAR?
Photogrammetry.
Photogrammetry. Yeah, photogrammetry?
Photogrammetry.
Yeah.
But that just made your head explode.
Boy, it sure did. Spinning. Let me put it back together. Ask my question. Yeah, this photogrammetry, I find it hard to believe that you guys would have this technology as basically civilians, and that the FBI and their investigative task force, their congressional investigative task force, doesn't have this same technology. Or
So the Congressional Task Force relied solely on the FBI to provide them all the evidence that they analyzed. They did make a symbolic trip to Butler, and they took a couple pictures.
Where they
and
did their
looked at a
walk
couple-
around.
Right, they looked at a couple windows. They got their picture on the news, but that's all it really was. It was a photo op for them. They didn't gather any evidence. And the Pennsylvania State Police, who did a tandem investigation with the FBI, were not allowed to collect evidence either. So the FBI is the only agency that collected any evidence there. And they did photogrammetry, but so did I.
So are you saying that
Interesting.
if they did the
So-
photogrammetry and you did too, you're saying that they had the evidence, but they're not releasing that, or they're
Correct.
just saying it's wrong?
No, they've said
just-
nothing.
they've said
They haven't
nothing.
said.
Okay.
So in the congressional report, the FBI gave them little snippets, and the congressional report says that that the FBI told Congress they traced 6 of the 8 bullet trajectories. And those 6 bullets, with the exception of one, came from the north toward the AGR complex.
Which is where he was sitting.
That's all they say.
Oh.
That could mean it came from where the dead body is. It could mean it came from the businesses across the street from AGR, some of which have good lines of sight. It could mean that those bullets came from a car parked along Whitestown Road next to AGR, which, by the way, was where Thomas Crook's car was parked. It could come from one of the spectators who were along the fence. There were over 100 spectators that day. Could come from any one of those places. Those are all north of the stage towards AGR. It's
Interesting.
almost like the FBI specifically doesn't say exactly where they came from.
And the question is, Why? But we're not going to try to. Did we be in breach of Hoochie protocol?
My question is,
if we ask that.
when it comes to all of this, you said that this investigation started while Biden was still in office because it happened while Biden was still in
Started
office.
the day of the assassination attempt, July 13th, 2024.
But you also said that Kash Patel is the one that closed it out.
He didn't, I don't know that he closed it, but
Okay.
he said on a Fox Business interview with Maria Bartiromo a couple of weeks ago that that case is closed. And his deputy, Dan Bongino, said he's looked at the evidence and there's no there. But I guarantee you, if he's looked at the evidence that I've seen, that I have, he would never say that. Because there's an enormous there.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they would sign off on that.
Well,
Being
you know,
Kash Patel
we
and-
haven't seen the Epstein files. Both of them said a couple weeks ago that they've suddenly discovered a case of documents under somebody's desk that
Yeah, I
related
saw
to the
that.
January 6th pipe bomber. There's all kinds of things the FBI has done in the last 4 years that I don't think the new director and his deputy know about. On July 13th this year, they will know.
Okay, so
So all they got to do is watch my movie, and the FBI has what I have.
are you predicting that whenever the movie is now out to the public, the information that's in it and it gets back to Kash Patel or Dan Bongino, they will actually see it and be like, let's reopen this case?
I'm not predicting that they'll reopen it,
Mm-hmm.
but I am saying that they should
Got it.
reopen it. And if they know what I know, they're either going to reopen it or they're going to be part of the cover-up because there's only two options.
Mm-hmm.
When you see it, you'll realize the evidence is overwhelming. You have to explain it. It's like saying, I see this water bottle on this table. You can argue with me about whether or not it's here, but if I take a picture of it and show that picture to people, most people are going to say, yeah, there was a water bottle there.
Yeah.
I've got the picture of the water bottle. You either got to explain it or you got to call me a liar. But it's not me. It's the picture.
Yeah.
It's hard evidence. It's not my opinion. It's facts.
You're just presenting the fact.
Technology. I didn't make this process up. I didn't even know about it until just before we went out there to do this. But once I found out about this photogrammetry process, and by the way, a lot of crime scenes get reconstructed this way, specifically car accidents. They use it a lot because if you have an iPhone 15 Pro or newer, it has a LiDAR sensor in it.
You're kidding.
That's the LiDAR sensor that I use to scan certain things at the crime scene. And we incorporated that data, which is super accurate. It's down to a millimeter accuracy or something. We incorporated that with all the photos and all the videos, and a computer crunches all those numbers and makes a super accurate 3D model. So you can do this photogrammetry with if you have an iPhone 15 Pro, you can do photogrammetry. And there are people out there today, police all over this country, who are investigating car accidents, who are shooting it with their cell phone and building an accurate 3D model that lasts forever. Wow. And this is why I knew I had to do this, because there have been crimes that have been committed in this country that after the crime happens, if it's at all controversial, they destroy the crime scene. There's a particular school that I'm not going to mention that was very scandalous and has been talked about, and people have been sued over conspiracy.
I think I know the school
We
you're
don't know what I'm talking about at all.
Yeah.
But they tore down that school. So if you ever want to go investigate that yourself, you can't.
You can't.
We're lucky here in Dallas. We've got Dealey Plaza over there, and it's been there for 62 years. There's no more Dealey Plazas anymore. When there's a sketchy crime that happens, there might be a conspiracy, they tear it down. And I knew that if I wait long enough, they're going to tear down.
They're gonna tear it down.
AG office.
So you went over there
I
and
did
got
it
the
out there and make
evidence.
we made what we call a digital twin of that area. They can tear it down now. I've got all the data. It will last forever.
You made a holodeck.
I made a holiday.
You made a holodeck.
Way
of
to
the crime
reveal
scene.
our
I like that.
nerdiness. That was great. Yeah, but
I'm
no,
a nerd.
that's a
Proud.
I'm a nerd too. I'm proud of us.
So the third out for a second. If the Federation had any brains whatsoever, they would tear those things out of the ships, because they almost kill everybody with the holodeck many times. They are the most dangerous item on a starship.
They are a
Get rid
hazard.
of them immediately.
I never
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
about it that way, because it's so true. Because how many times was a ship in danger because of something happening on the holodeck?
Yes.
Oh my
all the time.
Absolutely ban the holodecks. You're going to save lives.
Yeah, they get rid of the holodecks and then they would assemble more datas, because datas they save every other episode.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the
ship
character
is-
data.
The character data.
So there's
Yeah.
only two starships so far in the entire Star Trek universe that didn't have a holodeck, and that was the first ever Enterprise.
and they did pretty well.
Yeah, and then the second one was Discovery. Neither one of those. Yeah, neither one of those had a holodeck on them.
Boy, you're way more advanced in your knowledge of the Star
Federation
than I am.
But there you go.
Don't get me started on Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I'll go off on it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
So the technologies and techniques that you use to create this holodeck is not something y'all developed. It's not a new technology.
It's something they've had access
I mean, it's
to.
probably pretty new, but it is accessible to multiple law enforcement agencies and is used.
yes,
Really?
As I said, today, probably here in Dallas, there are people in law enforcement using photogrammetry to preserve crime scene data. So we didn't invent it. It's not really new or novel. It's a standard practice. You know, early on, DNA was controversial.
Sure.
Now there's court cases, and it's a fact now. Photogrammetry is the same way. It's not a word that the average person knows, but if they go to court, I guarantee you they're going to see a 3D model on the screen if they're involved in an accident and they're trying to prove their innocence. Their lawyers got it. The cops have got it. It's a standard practice in crime. It's sort of a standard practice in crime scene reconstruction now to use a 3D model to prove your point, and that's what photogrammetry creates.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I have a question when it comes to the actual happenings of that day, because you say that there is factual evidence that there was an additional shooter.
I said strong
factual
forensic evidence.
Strong forensic evidence.
I'm comfortable with that phrasing. Strong forensic evidence.
Strong forensic evidence that there was an additional shooter.
At least one.
At least one, other than what they've said.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
At least one additional shooter.
One additional shooter. Is there any way that what you found can be proven the opposite?
No.
No. Okay. So it's factual.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
The laws of physics would have to be different than what I understand them to be,
Yeah.
because we know one of those 8 bullets came from a place that could not be the roof of that AGR building.
Got it. Where could it have come from?
We show in the movie where I believe it came from, we trace a line of sight.
Okay.
Because there's not just forensic evidence, and no one knows this either, there's also 2 eyewitnesses.
No one knows about these eyewitnesses?
I would say it's not common knowledge that there are 2 eyewitnesses.
I did know
Two
about it.
witnesses that saw what? What are they claiming to have seen allegedly, maybe?
Bullets coming from a different direction.
So, in other words, there's probably people who heard it coming from the rooftop, which is where the original shooter was.
There are plenty of people who saw bullets and shots who believe they saw gunfire coming from where the dead body is on the AGR roof. But there are 2 very credible eyewitnesses that say there was someone else shooting from somewhere else.
Are those the only 2 witnesses?
Those are the only 2 witnesses to this particular bullet that I also have forensic evidence to.
Wow. I'm thinking it's the only 2 that are probably okay with coming forward, but there's probably more.
Are still alive?
There might be. Yeah.
Stop. So, two additional eyewitnesses. By the way, if anybody doesn't know anything about court law or anything to prove it right, you only have to have 2 witnesses or more to prove it right.
These witnesses are very adamant
Yeah.
that there were shots, more than one shot. They say more than one. I can only prove where one of those shots ended up, but they say there was more than, they say there were projectiles coming from a different direction.
I wonder how they would have estimated that, or in their experience.
At least one of them is a combat veteran who's been shot out before. So he had very specific
Okay, wait.
testimony
We just
saying-
got into a whole.
saying he literally said, I was so close I could have reached out and swatted those projectiles out of the air. I felt the pressure difference in my ear as they went by me.
Yeah.
What,
probably
okay,
heard
was he saying he was that close to the not only he heard the shooter behind him.
Not that the shooter was close to him. He said the bullets.
He was in a
came
trajectory.
close by him.
Got it.
That he could have swatted them with his hand.
And so therefore, since it was so close to him, he could actually predict where they came from because of.
He didn't try. I think he does. He tries to go through some mental gymnastics to say that they could have come from the shooter on the roof, but they can't.
Okay.
He didn't know what I know. I think he was just working on the presumption there's only one gunman, because that was the story at the time. So he does some serious mental gymnastics to try and justify them coming from the roof, but he didn't have the forensic evidence that I know. and I know they couldn't.
When you talk about this, you said a combat vet.
Combat veteran.
Is
I believe. I'd have to go back. and
okay.
look
So
at
he's
his
not like
statements
somebody
again.
you interviewed. This is somebody.
No,
Oh, I got you.
I did not
Okay.
interview him.
Okay, that would be a good interview.
I'd love to interview a lot of people, but this particular person had multiple lawyers. So
Okay, because he probably did.
I did interview some people that you've never seen interviewed before, but this particular guy I could not interview.
I'm guessing you tried.
No.
Okay.
I knew from the outset it was a no-go.
It was going to be too many hurdles to.
I knew he was not going to talk to me.
Got it. Got it.
So
So it
many
would have been a
people,
dead end.
so many people said they're not going to talk to me. I knew he would be one of them.
All right. When it comes to people,
I have no way of contacting this person.
so he's kind of off the grid since he's a combat vet, but he's also got layers and walls and walls of lawyers.
I don't know if he's off the grid, but I cannot reach him.
Got it. Got it. He's unreachable.
So these people who didn't want to talk to you, and I think I probably already know the answer to this question. Did they give a reason as to why they would turn you down for interview?
They didn't say they wouldn't. And so this particular person that we're talking about, who's an eyewitness to the other gunshot, I never spoke to them. I never approached them. I never asked them to be interviewed. I am speculating that they would not interview, but it's informed speculation because they didn't interview with anyone.
Got it. Got it. So the two witnesses that you said, other than like that, two eyewitnesses that saw or can verify.
I have two eyewitnesses that testified that additional projectiles came by them that I know cannot be traced back to the gunman on the AGR roof.
Got it. But this is not interviews that you did.
They're not interviews.
Okay, but you can take the information that you have along with their credible eyewitness testimony and prove that there was an additional gunman.
Yes. No one has debunked their testimony, what they said. No one has said, no, that's not true. And let me show you why. Their testimony, as far as I know, is unimpeached. So I'm just going with that. If I got to talk to them, maybe I'd find holes in their testimony. But what they said is very compelling.
Yeah.
Especially because they're combat veterans. They're informed. They're not just the average person witness. They're an informed opinion. And they didn't know what I know, which completely reinforces what they say. So they thought they were just these two crazy people out there in the wilderness saying, no, there were other shots coming from a different direction. They don't know that I have proof.
When they compare it to your forensic evidence, they compare it to their testimony to your forensic evidence. It's kind of a no-brainer.
If they see this movie, I'd be surprised if they didn't say, that's where it is.
Okay. Well, I have a question for you. It's Nick brought up a good point, and this is kind of me playing devil's advocate here.
He's really good at that.
I love giving
It's annoying. It's effing annoying is what it is.
because you can't handle it.
Sure, I can. Okay.
I like giving people the opportunity to defend whatever contingent opinions might come at them, right? So Nick mentioned a little while ago, what if all of this stuff that you know, can it be proven wrong? What if, and you say, no, I have faith in what you're saying, and I believe for a long time that there's something more to that day than what we were reported on. But what could someone come back and say, well, we're not going to consider all of the evidence that you have gathered because no one on your team was a professional forensic law enforcement, member or personnel or anything like that. Could they disqualify your evidence based on that fact?
I mean, I don't think this evidence is ever going to be presented in a court. So would a court admit it? I think they would. The definition of a professional is whether or not you get paid. And I didn't get paid to do this. I paid people to do this.
Oh, that's a good point.
So the people I paid, technically, by definition, are professionals. They're also experts, the people that I paid to do this. I didn't do this analysis. I hired the people to do this analysis who are experts who do this all the time.
Oh, there you go.
And handed that data to another expert who makes their living analyzing crime scenes and has been to federal court many times. So if they want to impeach someone, they can try to impeach those people, but their credentials are pretty solid.
Got you.
I'm just a filmmaker who says,
I'll get you a saddle devil's advocate right there.
Oh, what, like graciously and with a lot of knowledge? That's not fun.
Okay, just thought I'd ask because I can see people.
It's a great question, and here's I'll say something that might shock you. If they can tell me how this happened in a way other than the way I'm proposing, that's great. But
Right.
what they can't do is ever tell me there hasn't been a cover-up, because the FBI knows what I know and they've never said.
Yeah.
If my evidence is no good, that's great. Let's see the FBI's data, because they did it earlier than I did, and they probably did it much better than I did. So let's see their data.
Let's see that. Yeah.
Let's see how their
You're
data
presenting a
compares
key.
to my data.
Yeah.
My goal with this movie is just to get people saying, yep, we need that data. FBI, either reopen the investigation or just release the data like they did with all those, Epstein preliminary files.
Sure.
Let them all out there. Let all of us examine it, and we'll investigate.
Yeah.
Don't pay the FBI. They're busy hunting down people. That's great. The case is closed. Give us the data. Give us the FBI data. The FBI did 1,000 interviews, over 1,000 interviews. They only provided 81 interviews to Congress, and they provided 0 to the public.
Wow.
Give us that data. We'll investigate. I believe we can crowdsource this investigation, and we can find the people that helped crooks, if it is crooks, try to kill Trump, murder a man, court comparator.
Let's not forget him.
Right, and gravely wound 2 other people. Their lives are changed forever, and they've never had justice.
Yeah.
I want justice for them.
Or closure.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. So, does the word patsy ever come up in your
I never say that
documentary?
word.
Never say that word? That's kind of hoochie. That's a little bit on the hoochie side. For sure.
I never say that it's not Thomas Crooks. I just ask the government, what is your proof?
Yeah.
They've provided no proof.
Yeah.
They've provided no proof.
Well, because the hoochie mama in the room, it comes off as because he was young, he's a registered Republican, and so it's like they almost set it up to where it's going to go against Trump. They tried to, and I think they failed horribly, because I think that single day was the main reason why he got reelected.
It could be.
I don't think so, but it helped.
It was the straw on the camel's back. As it was.
You're speculating, and I don't speculate in the movie. But what I do in the movie is examine some of these hoochie mama theories. I do investigate some of them, like the water tower. A lot of people said there's a second gunman in the water tower. I know that that's not true. I also investigate a popular theory on the other side of the political spectrum, which was Trump faked this.
Yeah.
So I look into that. Is there proof that Trump faked it? If I'm going to be an honest documentarian, I have to examine both sides. And I delve into the idea that, is it possible that Trump could have faked it?
See, I love that philosophy, and we don't get enough of it.
You have to see the movie.
Oh, okay. I want to know if it was like
I would
any kind of
tell you
credible
that-
evidence that he faked it.
I would tell you that I come to a reasonable conclusion in the movie about that theory.
Yeah.
Just as I come to a reasonable conclusion
Yeah,
about the
about
water
the
tower.
others.
You get equal and opposite hoochie mamas
Hey,
coming from both
If
sides
Trump
of the
faked
spectrum.
it, I want to know, because he got people killed. If he faked it, he got a man killed doing that, and or should go to jail.
Yeah.
So whoever got him killed, whoever helped in this, and I know there was more than one person, whoever helped needs to be held accountable. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I don't know nearly as much about that as you do, obviously. You're kind of the expert on July the 13th. But everything that I have heard, it just, and probably a lot of it's hoochies, right? But it just points in so many different directions. There's the whole CNN network. Let's not say that. CNN network.
I don't care. Yeah, you can say that.
I know that. I know that.
Because that's just factual evidence
It's
of
just
how many
factual.
they covered, how many of his rallies they covered that year, how many of his rallies that he had was like 98, and they
I think I know what you're referring
96.
to. 96.
And CNN refused to cover any of them except that one.
Yeah.
And they were
I mean,
at
any of them live.
right.
any of them live.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Of course.
I tried to run that down. I couldn't verify that was true. But what I do know for a fact is that the Secret Service never provided counter snipers to the Trump campaign before that rally. That was the first rally that Trump had counter snipers. That was the guy that actually shot Thomas Crooks. He never had those guys before.
Hey, let me make sure I'm understanding.
That's it.
That's in the congressional report.
Hang on, let me understand make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying that all the other rallies,
Before that one.
before that one, he didn't have any counter snipers.
On that campaign. I don't know about the 2020
No, I'm
election
talking about this
and the
campaign.
2016.
So-
But in the 2024 campaign, that was the first rally that the Secret Service provided counter sniper protection to the Trump campaign because they said there was a credible threat of a long-range foreign threat.
So they
Means a
had an
sniper
inside
from a
track
foreign
of
country.
a
They
foreign
knew there
threat.
was a threat.
What?
And they put counter snipers there to stop it, and they all failed.
But if we had to get this, like if that information got out to CNN, that would be the only reason that they would cover that, because if they have this information of like, this is the first rally that Trump has had counter snipers that has been offered from the Secret Service, they're like, okay, let's cover this one since there's a foreign threat that we may know about. Something might happen.
That
can see that.
was
So
not-
many of these
that-
little-
that thing about the counter snipers being there for the first time was not public knowledge. So CNN could have got it leaked to them, but it wasn't out there. So the average person didn't know that there were counter snipers here.
That brings up another question. I know that anybody that anyone with any sniper experience from military personnel or whatever would say that 150 meters with an AR-15 is pretty easy. That makes for an easy target, right?
This is another thing that I've heard many, many times, and it's something that I wanted to investigate because I've shot weapons in the past. I was in the military. We trained at more than 100 yards. Oh, by the way, no one knew the exact distance until I did my photogrammetry. I know the exact distance.
Which is
I'm not going to tell you.
Gotta watch the movie, Nick. Gotta go see the movie.
But a lot of people have said that, especially people on YouTube who have firearms channels. Some of them have even recreated that shot. Here's the thing. The rifle that Crooks was using had an unmagnified red dot sight. That means at 150 yards, Trump would be less than an inch tall looking through his sight. He wore glasses. I'm not sure those glasses were recovered from the crime scene.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to believe that he could shoot accurately. And when you see my reconstruction, you'll realize
So hitting
I'm
his
right about
ear
this.
is pretty accurate.
It was an extremely accurate shot. It should have killed Trump, but it didn't.
Wow.
It's very unlikely that Crooks could have made that shot with the sight that he had on that weapon.
Okay.
could the weapon he had actually make that?
We got a wrap?
Yes.
Okay, we got a wrap. There was one last point I wanted to make, but I'll save it for
Wait, hang on. But you said that weapon could make that
The weapon is accurate enough to get within 1 or 2 minutes of angle, which means a couple feet.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee you're going to hit Trump in that couple of feet.
Got it.
It's the weapon and the ammunition are borderline accurate. The sight is not.
Is it also in your movie where do you talk about how it
I'm
was
sorry.
just
One more thing.
Oh.
There's a bunch of things in the way that most people don't know because they haven't done what I've done. But
Right.
there are all kinds of obstructions that the Secret Service put in the way to block sniper sight lines from that building. And most people and everybody who says, oh, that's an easy shot doesn't realize that Crooks had to shoot around these things to get it.
Gotcha. We'll see
You'll see that in the movie.
Another magic bullet.
It's not magic, but it was an amazing shot that realistically Trump should never have survived. It's a miracle that he
Okay,
Yeah.
speaking of miracles, do you hit on if he wouldn't have turned his head?
I don't.
Okay, just checking.
I think it's
'cause
been covered well enough.
Yeah.
It has. I
It's
just
a
want to make
miracle.
sure because I know
He never
like
should have survived.
So your movie is going to be, I would hope, very well received.
My movie's mostly stuff that no one's seen before.
Right. So it's all going to be new information, which is why you're being so dodgy right now on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Maybe I'm just dodgy.
Have you felt like you're more on edge because of the information coming out? I know you want to get the truth out there, but
The day.
As podcasters, are our lives at stake here? For
I'm not worried about it.
You'll have to invite me back because we have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But the process of doing this investigation was harrowing. I'll just leave it at
I'll
that.
bet.
Okay.
It was very
All right.
difficult.
Yeah, we'll get into that more.
I'm never going back. I'm never going back to Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Okay, that's that. We'll leave it at that. What camera am I looking into, Sarah? All right, that one. Hey, thank you for coming on board, JD. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, this
for,
was interesting.
The movie is going to be released at the Texas
Texas Theater.
Texas Theater on July 13th.
Yes.
It is not worldly distributed, so we're counting on the crowd taking this and running with it.
What's the name of the movie?
It's going to be
Who Shot Trump?
Who Shot Trump?
Oh,
It's going to be at the Texas Theater on July 13th, which is the 1 year anniversary of the actual assassination attempt. By the way, this podcast is sponsored by a Santa clothing company. And America. And America. Nick's Right Podcast, where Nick is always right. Thank you, JD.
If you want tickets, whoshottrump.us is the website. You can get tickets. Join us. See it before anybody
I was going to ask next. WhoShotTrump.us. Get your tickets. Come to the premiere. Texas Theater,
Texas Theater in Dallas.
which is where they found Lee Harvey. wasn't it?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah,
Yes, same
that's
theater.
appropriate. It's pretty. That was a patsy. Cool. JD,
JD, thank you for coming,
a
brother.
wealth of knowledge, man. It was awesome.
You're welcome. It's so great to meet you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are
Well,
cool. Please invite me back. I'd love to come back.
Well, no,
Let me
After
come
the
back
movie's out,
after
we
the
can talk
movie.
freely.
Literally, we had to trim this thing down to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I could have made a 3-hour movie. There's so much there that
Yeah, I
people
bet.
don't know.
Okay, all right. So do you have it? Just
I smell a sequel.
I'm about to say, do you have enough footage for like more of like a limited series?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We'll talk.
All right.
Awesome.